My girlfriend of 4 years left me for a better man her family chose. 2 years later, she's losing it after seeing me happy with my successful business and my soulmate. Part 1. For context, I'm a 29-year-old male software engineer turned startup founder. This whole saga started about 4 years ago, but the real drama peaked just recently. I always knew Bianca, 28F, and her family didn't like me. I wasn't blind. We met in college. She was studying business management at a fancy private school, and I was the scholarship kid studying computer science, living off ramen and energy drinks while building what I hoped would be the next big tech startup. Classic meet cute. She spilled coffee on my laptop in the library. I made a dumb joke instead of freaking out, and somehow that turned into 4 years of what I thought was the real deal. They never said it outright. No, the Whitmores were too refined for that. But the looks, the dismissive smiles, and the way they always steered conversations towards successful men in their circle whenever I was around, it was painfully obvious. When we first started dating, Mrs. Whitmore would introduce me as Bianca's friend from school. After 2 years together? Jesus. At first, I thought Bianca was different, that she saw past their world of old money, golf club politics, and a status over everything mentality. She used to laugh about how stuffy her parents were and would roll her eyes at their country club drama. We'd snuggle up in my crappy studio apartment, which had this annoying leak in the bathroom ceiling that the landlord never fixed, eating takeout on my futon while watching Netflix on my ancient laptop. She'd tell me none of the money stuff mattered, that she loved me, not my bank account. Turns out, it mattered a lot. Our place was nothing special, a third-floor walk-up in a not-so-great part of town with neighbors who either had screaming matches or loud sex, sometimes both, at 2 a.m. but it was ours, you know? We decorated it with string lights, posters, and all these little potted succulents Bianca kept buying, even though I was the one who ended up keeping them alive. I had this old rescued tabby cat named Pixel who would constantly knock everything off the counters but would curl up between us every night. Bianca always claimed she was more of a dog person, but I'd catch her baby talking to Pixel when she thought I wasn't looking. The beginning of the end started at a casual family dinner at her parents' estate, one of those absurdly excessive gatherings where people wear watches worth more than my car, which, to be fair, wasn't saying much. I was driving a 2008 Honda Civic with a dent in the bumper and a check engine light that had been on for a while. They drank wine from bottles that probably had their own security detail, all while talking about their little weekend trips to the Hamptons or Aspen like it was as routine as my weekly trip to the laundromat. Bianca had insisted I come, saying it was just family and that her parents were really trying to get to know me better. I should have known something was up when she asked me to wear a blazer. I only owned one, from my cousin's wedding 3 years ago, and it was a little tight now. Startup stress eating is real, folks. But I sucked it in and wore it anyway. I even borrowed a friend's good shoes for the occasion. But the moment I stepped in, I realized it was anything but family. Her father's business associates were there, along with their sons, men who had already made it in finance, law, real estate. The kind of guys who had LinkedIn profiles that read like the American dream on steroids, Ivy League schools, summer internships at Goldman Sachs, fathers who were on a first-name basis with senators, you know the type. The conversation flowed effortlessly between investment strategies and European vacations, while I was still grinding on my startup with barely any social life, living off instant ramen and the occasional splurge on a burrito bowl from Chipotle, always with guacamole, because I'm fancy like that. I didn't exactly have riveting stories about my summer home in the Berkshires or my latest skiing trip to the Alps. It didn't take long before the targeted attack started, disguised as casual conversation. Still working on that little tech project? Bianca's father asked, swirling his whiskey in a crystal tumbler that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Startup, I corrected, trying not to sound offensive. We're in early development, but we're making progress. I didn't mention that our last investor meeting had gone terribly or that my co-founder and I had been pulling 80-hour weeks trying to fix bugs in our prototype. One of his friends chuckled, this guy with perfect teeth and a tan in February. Tech is so volatile these days. You sure it's a wise investment of time? Maybe a backup plan wouldn't hurt, he said, smirking like he was bestowing life-changing wisdom on me rather than just being condescending. I saw Bianca shift uncomfortably in her seat. She wasn't defending me, that was new. Usually, she'd jump in with something about how passionate I was or how she believed in what we were building. This time? Silence. She just sipped her wine and studied the elaborate floral centerpiece like it was the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. Then came Adrian. Bianca's mother introduced him like he was some long-lost prince. Adrian just made junior partner at Goldstein & Burke. She gushed, practically shoving him toward Bianca. Corporate lawyer, Princeton undergrad, Yale Law, such a brilliant mind. She might as well have been reading his dating profile, and for some reason, Mrs. Whitmore was very insistent that he sit next to Bianca. You two have so much in common, she trilled while I sat across the table, suddenly feeling like I was watching my relationship from the outside. The entire dinner was an exercise in humiliation. The conversation kept steering toward stability, secure careers, and proven success. Adrian talked about his recent bonus. Who does that? The condo he just bought in the right part of town, his plans to make full partner by 35. I talked about, well, nothing really. Every time I tried to speak, someone would politely listen for about 5 seconds before redirecting the conversation. I realized then that this wasn't just a family dinner, this was an audition. They were showing Bianca her options, real men with real futures, not a guy still struggling to make his first big break. You can click on share more to see if there is a part 2. Update, my girlfriend of 4 years left me for a better man her family chose. 2 years later, she's losing it after seeing me happy with my successful business and my soulmate. Part 2. They were painting a picture of what her life could be with someone like Adrian versus what it would be with me. I barely made it through the night. But the worst part wasn't the subtle jabs or the orchestrated comparison, it was Bianca. She didn't say a word in my defense, not once. Instead, she laughed at Adrian's lame jokes, asked him questions about his work, and seemed genuinely interested in his stories about law school. She had never shown the same kind of interest in my startup. That night, when we got back to my apartment, things felt different. She complained about the broken elevator. It had been broken for months, nothing new. She mentioned how small the bathroom was and wrinkled her nose at Pixel when he jumped on the bed, something that had never bothered her before. A week later, I got the talk. She didn't drag it out, she just showed up at my place after work, still in her business casual outfit from her marketing job at her dad's friend's company, a job she got without an interview, but that's another story. She sat across from me at my tiny IKEA dining table, the same one we'd assembled together while drinking boxed wine and laughing about the incomprehensible instructions, the same one where we'd had countless takeout dinners, game nights with friends, and late-night talks about our dreams. "I love you, but I need stability," she said, every word carefully rehearsed. I could practically see her practicing this speech in her mirror. "I can't keep waiting for you to figure it out. My family made me realize I need someone who's already there, someone like Adrian." I finished for her. She didn't even have the decency to look surprised, she just nodded, eyes down, fiddling with the expensive watch her parents had given her for her last birthday. "It's not just about money," she insisted, though we both knew that was bullcrap. "It's about having a plan, a future that's certain." I could have fought, could have begged, could have promised to change, to get a real job, to be whatever version of myself would fit into her family's vision. But something in me snapped. I just nodded and said, "All right." That's all I said. She looked surprised, like she expected resistance, tears, a dramatic scene, but I had none left to give. I was just empty. "That's it?" she asked, almost disappointed. "What do you want me to say, Bianca? That you're breaking my heart? That I think you're making a mistake? That your family has brainwashed you? Would any of that change your mind?" She didn't answer because we both knew it wouldn't. 2 days later, she hard-launched her new relationship on social media, not even a full week after our breakup. And there they were, matching outfits at some luxury hotel in the Hamptons, his arm around her waist, her smile wide and carefree. The caption read, "Found my forever," all while I was still sleeping on the side of the bed we used to share, still finding her hair in my shower drain, still automatically buying her favorite cereal at the grocery store out of habit. I wish I could say I turned my pain into motivation instantly, that I channeled my heartbreak into becoming a tech mogul overnight. But that would be some bullcrap movie ending. The truth? I spiraled. Heartbroken, my startup crashed a month after our breakup. Investors pulled out after our early prototype failed during a crucial demo. My apartment? Gone. I couldn't afford the lease anymore without dipping into my already dwindling savings. My self-respect? In shambles. I ended up crashing at my friend Luke's place, a guy I'd known since freshman year who never quite understood my relationship with Bianca but supported me anyway. His place was even smaller than mine had been, but he cleared out half his closet and let me and Pixel move into his spare room without complaint. That's a real friend right there. I started job hunting for anything that could pay the bills while watching Bianca's perfect new life unfold online. I know, I should have blocked her, deleted the apps, whatever. But there's something masochistic about heartbreak that makes you keep looking. Lavish vacations to places I'd only seen in movies, high-end dinners at restaurants where the menu doesn't even list prices, gifts that cost more than my net worth. Every post felt like a middle finger, like she was saying, "See? This is what I deserve, not you." And the worst part? Her family was right. I had nothing to show for all my hard work. I had wasted years chasing a dream that led nowhere while Adrian, in his tailored suits and six-figure salary, had everything handed to him on a silver platter. I hit my lowest point when I ran into Bianca and Adrian at a cafe downtown. I was picking up an Uber Eats order because that's where I was now, delivering food to survive. Standing in the same restaurants I used to eat at, now just grabbing bags and hoping for decent tips. My car's AC was broken, I was sweating through my t-shirt, and my phone was at 15% battery after a 10-hour shift. They were sitting outside, laughing and holding hands, dressed like they had walked out of a luxury ad. She had this new haircut, expensive, stylish, the kind you don't get at Great Clips. He was wearing sunglasses that probably cost more than all the clothes I own combined. She saw me, paused mid-laugh, and our eyes met for a second. I thought I saw something, regret, maybe guilt, but then it was gone, replaced by that polite smile you give to service workers or distant acquaintances, like I was some sad stranger she used to know. That moment broke something in me. That was the last day I allowed myself to be a joke. I went home to Luke's apartment, deleted all my social media apps, and made a decision. No more feeling sorry for myself, no more obsessing over Bianca's picture-perfect Instagram life, no more excuses. I cut off everything: social media, distractions, excuses, self-pity. I went into full rebuilding mode. I slept 4 hours a night, worked 2 jobs, Uber Eats during the day and the night shift stocking at a grocery store, and spent every spare second on rebuilding my startup from scratch. But the difference this time? I got smarter. No more chasing investors with half-baked ideas and flashy pitches. I learned to bootstrap and build something real before asking for money. No more trusting easily. I kept my circle small, basically just Luke and a couple of other ride or die friends, and worked in silence. No more wasting time. I cut out distractions, ditched friends who just wanted to complain about life, and focused on results. Luke was a saint through all of this. He'd bring me coffee during my late-night coding sessions, make sure I ate something besides protein bars, and never once complained about me turning his living room into a makeshift office. He even helped me set up interviews with some contacts from his job when I was trying to get my first enterprise clients. That guy deserves his own success story post, and don't worry, he got it. He's now killing it at his dream job and just bought his first house. For the next 2 years, I disappeared from Bianca's world. I had no idea what she was doing, who she was with, or if she was happy, and honestly, I stopped caring. While she was playing housewife to Adrian, I was grinding harder than I ever had in my life. My new startup idea was actually born from my failure. Instead of trying to create some revolutionary consumer app, I pivoted to B2B legal tech, specifically AI-powered contract analysis that could do in seconds what took junior lawyers hours. It was unsexy, unglamorous work that nobody posts about on social media, but it was solving a real problem I had personally experienced when trying to navigate legal documents for my previous startup. Then everything changed. One day my startup hit the right market fit, a viral moment in an industry publication, a testimonial from a big client that opened doors. Suddenly I wasn't struggling, I was scaling fast. Companies were reaching out to us, investors were calling, not the other way around. And just like that, my company, the one they all laughed at, was suddenly in direct competition with firms like Adrian's, and he was about to find out the hard way. 2 years, that's how long it took. 2 years of grinding in complete silence, of working insane hours, of pushing through every setback, and there were plenty of times I nearly gave up. Times when I thought maybe Bianca and her family had been right about me. But I kept going. I had an amazing team now, people who believed in the vision, who worked just as hard as I did, who had become like family. We had our own inside jokes, our weekly ritual of Friday afternoon beers on the office roof deck, our war stories of late-night coding sessions and impossible deadlines. And then, suddenly, things started clicking into place. My startup wasn't just surviving, it was scaling fast. We had landed a major client, one of the top 5 law firms in the country, that led to more contracts, more investors, and more recognition in the industry. Within months, we were expanding globally, opening offices in London and Singapore. But the real twist of fate, our biggest market disruption, was in financial law tech, the same industry Adrian worked in. Our AI tools were making junior associates at big law firms obsolete, automating the grunt work that guys like Adrian built their early careers on. That meant my company was directly threatening his firm's future, and he had no idea who was behind it. You can click on share more to see if there is a part 2. Update, my girlfriend of 4 years left me for a better man her family chose. 2 years later, she's losing it after seeing me happy with my successful business and my soulmate. Part 3. The first time I ran into Bianca again, it was completely unplanned. I was at an exclusive industry event, not as a guest, but as a featured speaker. A year ago, I couldn't even afford the entry ticket. Now, I was one of the main attractions, talking about how our technology was reshaping legal services. As I finished my talk, shaking hands with investors and executives, in a suit that actually fit this time, I spotted Bianca's parents across the room. They looked different. Less smug. Less dismissive. They recognized me instantly. Her mother's eyes widened in shock, her champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Her father, who had once mocked me at his dinner table, just gave me a slow nod, like he suddenly respected me, like I was finally worthy of acknowledgement. Then I saw Bianca. She was standing off to the side, frozen, staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. She looked good, of course she did, but different. The carefree smile from her Instagram posts was nowhere to be seen. She didn't approach me. I didn't approach her. But I saw the way her expression shifted, from shock to realization, to something else. Something that looked a lot like regret. From that night on, things only got worse for Bianca and Adrian. Their relationship was already crumbling. I later heard from mutual friends that he was exactly what I expected, a cold, image-obsessed, controlling man who treated her like an accessory rather than a partner. At first, she had loved the glamorous life, the luxury trips, the fancy dinners, the social media validation. But after the honeymoon phase ended, reality hit hard. Adrian was never home, always working or networking, which apparently involved a lot of late nights with female colleagues. He controlled the money, making sure Bianca never had access to anything independently. He dictated how she dressed, how she spoke in public, who she could associate with. And worst of all, her parents sided with him every time. She wasn't the prize anymore. Adrian was. Bianca had given up everything for security, and now she was miserable. The golden handcuffs were firmly in place. A few months later, I got an invitation from Bianca's father. He personally reached out to invite me to a private business gathering, one of those elite networking events where powerful people shake hands behind closed doors and make deals over $200 glasses of scotch. A few years ago, they would have laughed at the idea of inviting me. Now, they wanted me in the room. I accepted, not because I wanted their approval, but because I knew exactly why I was being invited. I was winning, and they wanted a piece of it. When I arrived at the event, fashionably late, because why not, I saw Bianca and Adrian standing together. Adrian looked different, stressed, shoulders tense, constantly checking his phone. His firm had been struggling, and I knew why. My company had taken a huge chunk of their clientele. Our software was doing the work of first and second year associates at a fraction of the cost, and law firms were jumping ship from traditional methods to our platform at an alarming rate. He probably didn't even know I was the reason yet. But Bianca, she knew. The moment our eyes met across the room, I saw it. The same expression she had at the last event. Only this time, it was worse. It was undeniable regret. A week after the event, she reached out. I had deleted her number long ago, but her message still came through. Greater than hey, it's been a while. I was wondering if we could catch up sometime. Just talk. I ignored it. A day later, she tried again. Greater than I know things ended badly, but I've been thinking a lot. I miss our conversations. Ignored that too. But then she made a desperate move. She showed up at my office. It was late, around 8 p.m. My team had already left for the day, and I was finishing up some emails when the receptionist buzzed me. Greater than there's a woman here asking to see you. She says it's important. I didn't need to ask who. I debated sending her away. But then I realized, this was my moment. So I let her in. She walked in hesitantly, looking around at my corner office with its floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture, so different from the cramped apartment we once shared. Her confidence was completely shattered. Gone was the smug, entitled girl who once told me I wasn't in her league. Now, she looked nervous. Smaller, somehow. "Hey," she said softly, giving me a sad smile. "It's been a while." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, silent, watching her fidget under my gaze. She hesitated, then took a deep breath. I was wrong, she admitted. About everything. I listened to my family, and I threw away something real for something fake. She bit her lip, searching my face for any reaction. "I miss you," she whispered. "I miss us." I tilted my head. "Us?" She nodded quickly, hope flickering in her eyes. "I know I hurt you. But maybe we could start over?" I stared at her for a long moment. Then I laughed, not angrily, not bitterly. Just amused. "Start over?" I repeated, shaking my head. "Bianca, we ended the day you chose them over me." She winced. But I wasn't done. "You didn't want me when I was broke. You didn't believe in me when I was struggling. But now that I've made it, now you want back in?" Her face fell. I stood up, buttoning my suit jacket, tailored this time, probably from the same place that made Adrian's. "Bianca, I don't think about you. I don't miss you. And I sure as hell don't need you." And then, for the final nail in the coffin, the office door opened. My girlfriend walked in. A brilliant product designer I'd met at a tech conference, who had believed in our company when we were still working out of Luke's apartment. A gorgeous, intelligent woman who eclipsed Bianca in every possible way. Bianca's face drained of color. I turned to my girlfriend, giving her a warm smile, then looked back at Bianca. "You see, I did find someone in my league," I said. "Turns out, it just wasn't you." And with that, I walked Bianca to the door and shut it behind her. But that wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the real fallout. A few weeks later, word started spreading that Adrian's firm was in serious trouble. Turns out, my company's AI-powered legal tech had been scooping up clients at a terrifying rate, faster service, cheaper fees, more efficiency. We were doing in minutes what they billed clients for hours to complete. Adrian's firm was bleeding money trying to compete. The old ways weren't working anymore. And instead of adapting, the partners were panicking. I heard from mutual contacts that Adrian was losing it behind closed doors, working 80-plus-hour weeks, desperately trying to retain their top clients. He was berating junior associates, lashing out at staff. Investors were pulling funding, seeing his firm as an outdated dinosaur in a market they no longer controlled. And the final twist of the knife? Adrian still hadn't put two and two together. He didn't know I was the one behind the company ruining his career. While Adrian was crumbling at work, Bianca's parents were panicking too. They'd spent years trashing me, treating me like some broke loser who wasn't worthy of their daughter. Now, their loser was richer, more powerful, and more respected than their entire social circle. And suddenly, they wanted to pretend the past never happened. You can click on share more to see if there is a part 4. Final update, my girlfriend of 4 years left me for a better man her family chose. 2 years later, she's losing it after seeing me happy with my successful business and my soulmate. Part 4. It started with small gestures. Bianca's mother sent a polite email congratulating me on my success. Her father mentioned me in an interview, calling me one of the most promising entrepreneurs of the decade. They invited me to another business event, framing it as a networking opportunity. I ignored all of it. Then Bianca's father called me directly. I answered out of pure curiosity. "I think we should talk, son," he said, his tone warm, fatherly, like we hadn't been in an unspoken war for years. I let him ramble about business opportunities, potential partnerships, water under the bridge. Then, after a pause, he finally got to the real reason. "Listen, Bianca made a mistake. I know that. We all know that. But she's been having a rough time, and I think if you two just sat down and..." I hung up mid-sentence. There was no apology. No accountability. Just pure self-serving damage control. That was the last time I ever picked up their calls. The moment Adrian finally realized I was behind his downfall was glorious. I was at a high-profile business conference, speaking on a panel about the future of AI and law. The CEO of a major firm publicly praised my company, saying, "Honestly, these guys are changing the game. Even some of the biggest firms are struggling to keep up, including some legacy players we all know." The camera panned to the audience. And there, in the crowd, Adrian. His face was completely drained of color, his expression a mix of shock and dawning horror. The realization hit him like a truck. I wasn't just some struggling ex of his girlfriend. I was the man destroying his career. Later that night, he snapped. I got a text from a mutual contact. "Greater than bro, Adrian just lost his SHT in a meeting. You have to see this." Apparently, during a firm-wide strategy session, one of his partners brought up my company as an example of what they needed to compete with. And Adrian lost it, slamming the table, shouting at his own bosses, claiming I was nothing but a lucky fraud, insisting we would crash and burn. Except the problem? Everyone else in that room wasn't laughing with him. They were looking at him like he'd lost his mind. They were realizing what I already knew. Adrian wasn't the future. I was. I could have left it there. But no, I wanted to end this completely. See, I had one final move left to make. A few months later, my company was ready for its biggest acquisition yet. We were buying out a smaller but highly influential legal firm, one that happened to be a direct competitor to Adrian. This wasn't just a business move. This was checkmate. Once the deal was finalized, we poached several of Adrian's top clients. And just like that, his firm collapsed. Within 6 months, they were forced to merge with a competitor. Adrian was no longer a partner. No longer a boss. He was just another employee, probably doing the same grunt work he'd smugly bragged about escaping years ago. And Bianca? She had married a man whose career was now in free fall. The same way she left me for security, she was now stuck with a man who had lost it all. And me? I had won, not just professionally, but personally. I had rebuilt myself from nothing, created something meaningful, and found happiness on my own terms. I ran into Bianca one last time. It was at an airport lounge, of all places. I was waiting for my flight to Tokyo, expanding into the Asian market, when I noticed her sitting alone, staring at her phone. No designer bags. No expensive jewelry. She looked tired. Older. The perfect life had taken its toll. She saw me. And for a moment, I saw hope flash in her eyes. She stood up as if to walk over. I just shook my head. Then I turned around, boarded my first-class flight, and never looked back. In the end, I didn't need to destroy Bianca. She did that to herself. She had traded real love for status. And now? Now that status was gone. Adrian, once the perfect provider, was now just another disgraced lawyer trying to stay afloat. Their once glamorous life was reduced to mediocrity. Meanwhile, I had everything I had ever worked for. My company was now a dominant force in the industry. I had real friends. A life I built from the ground up. And a relationship with someone who actually believed in me. I never responded to Bianca's final messages. Never acknowledged her silent attempts to reconnect. Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't ruining her life. It was simply living mine, better, happier, and without her. TLDR. Girlfriend dumped me because I wasn't successful enough for her fancy family. 2 years later, my startup accidentally destroyed her new boyfriend's career, and I got to watch their perfect life crumble while mine thrived. Edit. Oh crap, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and comments. To answer some common questions, yes, I'm still with my amazing GF, going on 1.5 years now. Pixel the cat is still with me and living his best life in our pet-friendly office. The company is still growing. And no, I don't feel bad about what happened to Adrian. Edit 2. For those asking if this is fake, I wish. Had to change some details for privacy, but the core story is 100% real. Sometimes life really does work out like a movie ending.